Okay, good morning. Let's financial pyramids and schemes. Would somebody like to read the memory text for us, please? Brother Rob?
Yes, a faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent. You want me to read the
Good.
other part?
Yes, you can go
All
ahead.
the advantages which God has given are his means to throw harder into the spirit, zeal, and into effort, and vigor into the carrying out of his holy will.
Good, thank you. So a lot of this lesson revolves around this idea of getting rich quickly or getting rich without much effort. And I think in the world, that idea has abounded for a long, long time. And we're going to see the dangers of that and how to prevent, how to be prosperous without falling into these kind of schemes. Okay. So Proverbs 21 verse 5. What will be the result of participating in get rich quick schemes? What is the result according to Proverbs 21 verse 5? Brother Walter.
The thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness, but of everyone that is hasty only to want. So we have contrast here between the diligent and the hasty. So what does it mean? Haste, in what way is haste here negative? I would say haste is negative probably that someone wants without diligence to get quickly to results, shortcuts. I tell the students, children, without doing properly your homework or studying, don't expect to just get to the results. You will not go far in life. And some people, seems to me, are having tendencies to quickly get without these, the spirit of getting, of making haste to be rich, of this all-absorbing worldliness is painfully contradictory to our faith and doctrines. So this is, I don't want to go further, but there is something very opposite, contrary to the faith and doctrines and how God operates, even with this mentality.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Sorry, if I just can give one example, it's simply stuck in my mind. It was the 90s, right? It was civil war in ex-Yugoslavia, and you know how it is. It was just a gray zone when you could operate this way or another way. So I remember in Serbia, they were every day founding new banks, but this was something which was operated from home, right? So they were offering 30% per month interest. And can you imagine people? People were simply flocking to there. And 1 month they would give you maybe 2 months, but on third month you will lose everything. So one of the consequences of getting, these schemes to get rich. So we have to be very diligent to work by our own hands.
Leads to want, right?
Good. So this verse encompasses more than, as Brother Walter was mentioning, this verse encompasses more than just get rich quick schemes. But the point here is that if you want to get rich without putting in the necessary effort, you get the opposite result of what you want. You want to get rich quickly, you will come to poverty quickly. That is the idea here, that you will get the opposite of what you want. But it encompasses more. Like it's, as Brother Walt said, it's opposing diligence with haste. And it's very interesting, this verse. It says the thoughts. It doesn't say the work, it says the thoughts of the diligent man. Because a diligent man thinks and plans before he executes. And so that he does his work efficiently. So that's not a question of lack of speed here. He does his work efficiently because he thinks, he executes, and he plans. His work is done efficiently and thoroughly. But the hasty person, I looked up hasty in the dictionary again, it said hurried, speedy, rash, inconsiderate, quick-tempered. So this notion of impatience, we just want to get it done so that we can and get done and do it, and then we'll get our reward. And that is not the way of of being prosperous.
When you mentioned talk, even about health, many people want quick fix. They don't want to change lifestyle and diet and whatsoever, but they want to just indulge and still be in good health. But God's laws operate differently.
Good, thank you. So now it's asking a very interesting question. Why does the Christian steward labor for eternal wealth instead of participating in get-rich-quick schemes? I think we read that, I think it was Brother Walter who somebody read the note under question A, that the haste to get rich is contrary to our faith. So why is it contrary to our faith? Why is it that the true steward will not participate in this? He will, yes, Brother.
If you look at the beginning of the verse over here, it say, "Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for Him." We have to be patiently waiting for God. We have to be patiently in our life. If we try to do something quickly, what we're talking already about this, what happened with these people? They get rich quickly, they lose quickly their money. It's even shown that you can watch about people that won lots of money on the lottery or whatever. How they finish? Where is this money? Mostly, 90% of them, they lose money. If we don't have a patience, if we don't hold our life built patiently and waiting for God, we are not on the right path. What it say and the Revelation, here is the patience. Patience is a key word for me over here.
Good, thank you. So this idea of trusting God and waiting for Him to fulfill His promises. Right? He has given us the plan by which we can be prosperous, and even when things seem to be going contrary to our, maybe our desires, this idea of waiting patiently and trusting in God. But what else here is in the note? Very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting that Satan is here also involved. It's not we. Satan is watching our disposition, our inclinations, our inheritance or whatsoever, and he brings sometimes into our way opportunities to get money quickly, probably dishonestly or improperly, and then people are ensnared. They will stumble and fall by loving mammon, worshipping their idol. Satan's object is often accomplished. The strong love of the world overcomes or swallows up the love of the truth. The kingdoms of the world are offered them, and they eagerly grasp their treasure and think they are wonderfully prospered. Satan triumphs because his plan has succeeded. They have given up the love of God for the love of the world.
Okay, good. If you turn that around, those who truly love God, that love for God cannot be supplanted by love for the world, right? Those who love God supremely will not jeopardize that relationship they have with God for any worldly consideration.
Yeah. Just to support what you said, if you read Hebrews 11, all the heroes of faith, they saw something. Abraham saw the city, Moses, forgo Egypt and so on. So this is, if we don't have that vision, then we are in danger.
See, we could be truly happy only if we work according the Lord's will, because He is only one who could give true happiness. Through quick get rich, you're going away from the Lord because you don't have that blessing from Him. You don't have that happiness, and you're looking for that happiness somewhere else. And comes different friends involved, different crowd around you. Money goes fast, but your life goes even faster down.
Good, thank you. Okay, Monday's lesson. What is the difference between a get-rich-quick scheme and a proper investment of means? So this is not against investing means properly, but what is the big difference here? What is the big difference between properly investing our means and trying to invest it in an effort to get rich quickly? Brother Damia.
How they say, if it's too good to be true, it's not true, investment. We have to be careful. I mean, in Bible say also, the story about the talents and stuff like this, the guy that buried his talent, he was unfaithful. We have to invest, and it's no question about this. But we have to also be smart. If it's what Sister Tanya was saying in the Yugoslavia before, if it's something too good, it means it's too risky also. If you go on the stock markets, you have also low risk investment, medium, high, whatever. Low risk investment, yeah, but you don't get so much. You still get something, but you don't get. But if you go high risk, you probably maybe gonna get, but it's a high risk. Are we willing? How much we are willing to risk?
Okay,
No,
good.
no,
so that's
so-
one of the principles here
Yeah.
is risk.
Now, just a
Okay.
second. One more thing. It's how much we are willing to risk financially, and how much we are willing to risk with our style of living or our lives.
And more importantly, how much we are willing to risk our eternal lives, right? But so one of the things here is risk. So we see this woman in Proverbs chapter 31, she considers, right? So very important to consider. And why is she considering? Because she's weighing up the risk. And doesn't matter where we invest, we take a risk. Even if we invest in souls, we take a risk that those souls are not going to accept, right? So there's always risk, but there's another point here. So she considers because she's considering the risk, but there's something else, another difference. Yes. Brother
No.
Okay.
So here it's like you said, it's a risk. So first she put thought into it, if she should buy it or not, and after it said she did labor. So she planted the vineyard, and after from that, when she was selling or doing, they make income, they profit. So it's much more involved in just in quick scheme or like lotto ticket or something like that, because it was involved effort, it was involved praying and time, and after it's through that we get blessed and we profited, but we got blessed, we are happy.
Good, thank you. So that's the second important point. Any investment of time or money particularly in which we do not expect also to work in order for that investment to grow, we have to be a little suspicious of. You see the woman here, she buys a field and she probably plants it, she does something with that field. She doesn't just let it lie there like people do today. They buy hoping that the property values are going to increase, right? And then they can sell. Or she considers a field, then she plants the vineyard, it says. She probably invests, she makes fine linen, and she sells it. So she invests labor, and then she makes a return, right? So those two things, assesses risk and then invest our own labor and effort. So if we're trying to achieve wealth and prosperity without our own effort, we're probably going to be disappointed.
Just one more factor. In the note, it's considering God's claims or demands or God's plans, because satisfying whenever we have personal needs, but also God has needs. So when we put these together, then God really prospers.
Okay, good. Anybody else like to mention anything under 2A? There's quite a long note here. But also it talks here about, again, the thought of diverting our minds into speculation. And once you've invested something and hoping, then you're always thinking, and you're watching to see what happens, but you're not occupied. So it engrosses the mind and takes our thoughts off eternity. All right, why is it that people are tempted to engage in speculative financial ventures? Yes, Brother Daniel.
Sorry.
It's a very interesting verse over here. It says, hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of men are never satisfied. People have a big eyes. But when we're talking about investment, we all invest here and there. I mean, you have to make some business. Every investment, it's a speculation. Speculation, it's also gambling, practically. So if you speculate, you're gambling if you're going to win or not. Now, if you put all of your stuff in the one speculation you expect to make some money, and you lose, you're ruined. But if you put the money and you kind of trying to make money, and whatever happen. If you lose, you're not ruined. If you win, good. Okay, fine. But we can't put all our money on one speculation. I'm sorry, but that's
Okay,
not true.
good. So that interesting voice, that interesting verse, the idea that there are always candidates for hell and destruction. Related to the fact because people are naturally inclined to be covetous, right? The sin of covetousness is the foundational sin, because we want something, and we're never satisfied with what we have. The natural man is never satisfied, always wants more for himself. Brother.
Yeah, like you said, that the people are created like that. God creates us like that we are thirsting for knowledge and go forward and advance in our thing. But advancing of knowing Him and His will, but if we go wrong way, we will progress the wrong way very fast, because that's in our nature. That's how we are created.
That's right. It's corrupted. The corrupted ambition or desire to reflect God's image is corrupted in this incessant desire to please our own tastes and fancies. Yes.
Briefly, in the contemporary society, sadly, society has gone completely in that direction. I mean, I read some respected economists who are saying, especially in the Western world, economy from industrial manufacturing has shifted, especially to, how he calls it, finance, insurance, and real estate. They are renting, they're extracting the wealth through rent. And this is, as you said, it's not productive work, it's just a parasitical way, speculations. And so if you look, for example, at the banking sector, I don't want to go into economy, 80% of the loans that are secured by real estate today in North America, and the banks are extracting the interest from these loans, right? So, the whole economy, how it today operates, is very speculative, and it's not the way how God would like us to, operate in that way, putting labor in and then taking reasonable risk and so on. But this is exploitative, exploiting, other people's labor.
Yes. Yes, please go ahead.
It says here, then comes a feverish unrest, a longing desire to obtain means more rapidly than present circumstances will admit. Their surroundings are accordingly changed in hope of making more money, but frequently their expectations are not realized, and they become discouraged and go backward rather than forward. They're backsliding.
Yes, and because we have this tendency to think that if we are not prosperous, God has not favored us. It's all tied up with when our financial house is not in order, we tend to lose faith in God as well. As Brother Walter mentioned, and we were warned of this. James, in the book of James, it talks about it, right? That the vast majority of the wealthiest people in the world, there are exceptions, but the vast majority of the wealthiest people in the world are exactly these kind of people who are putting very little effort in and extracting vast amounts of wealth that they cannot hope to even do anything with in their lifetime. Okay. Tuesday, know the enemy's strategy. Even in the fast-paced era in which we live, what does God mercifully provide, and why?
I mean, here in the verse is mentioning that's for everything. It's time, and here in the note said our time belongs to God. Every moment is His, and we are under the most solemn obligation to improve in His glory. Of no talent He has given will He require a more strict account than of the time. So, like, our time we'll have to give answer to the Lord God, because some people, they have more this or that, but every have 24 hours clock, so we have all same time, and it's question for us what we will do with that time, because like where I struggling, it's for me it's not hard to work. I could work, and I am very organized and this and that, but I don't work enough for the Lord, and I know that, and I have that burden, but I don't know how to fix it. I was back in Croatia and was on holiday, and I have really opportunity to talk to the people, and I felt so good. It just, I cannot explain. This vacation was best vacation ever, and 8 of us was sleeping practically in one bedroom house. But the God gives you such a blessing if you do work for Him. But here I come back and I go to my route because I fell behind, and you try to catch up, and it's different. But we will answer to the Lord for our how we spend our time.
Yeah, this is a very serious, and I mean, we talk about the shortness of time, that we don't have much time left, and as we see the enemy is making very good use of their time. If we see the enemy camp, they're ready. For the last conflict, they are really working very fast now to get ready, and we are such poor planning and such preoccupation with unimportant things, all of us. And I'm thinking of, first of all, my own life. But very important here, the middle sentence here, we have no time to waste. And our society has developed many schemes for wasting time. Many schemes for wasting time. But God mercifully still gives us time, but we have to, as Brother Dalibor mentioned, we have to, as individuals, as families, as a church, we have to do that consideration. We have to do that consideration part and see how we can use our time most effectively, again, in those groups of people, individually, as families, and as a church. And unfortunately, we are very much, in our families particularly, I think, distracted by the ways that the enemy has devised to waste our time. And when one person in the family is wasting time, for some reason, everybody has to spend time on that. Okay, what factors should we take into consideration as we plan our use of time?
Yes, lots of time we're making the plans. We're making the plans for tomorrow, for the months in advance, even for the years. And what we're forgetting? We're forgetting to even say or even think, is that the will of God? We're forgetting to pray, to ask the God to lead us. We're just making plans. But is that God's will? Is that God's will for us, particularly? And we don't ask that.
Yes. Okay, and this is again in James the obsession with pros- uh, prosperity, buying, selling, getting gain, instead of prioritizing God's will. If the Lord will, consulting God's will first of all. Okay, in seeking to advance God's work, what must we realize?
What we got to be aware of is that the devil is as a roaring lion, walking about which seeking whom he may devour. So we have to be aware of our adversary.
Yeah, just as brother said, as you mentioned, Satan is at work, and he's working over time. And these forces of darkness that are consolidating. We are told here it's a prophetic how we see it fulfilled. We have warnings now, which we may give a work now, which we may do, but soon it will be more difficult than we imagine. So, pandemic was a kind of a dry run, showing us what will happen in the near future. Traveling, reaching community, suspending church services, buying and selling, things will be disrupted. And what we fail to do now, when we may, we will regret the future.
Yes, in a way, logistically, even now, it is more difficult to do the work than it was 10 years ago. Of course, during the pandemic was even more difficult, but logistically, even now, it's more difficult to do the work than it was 10 years ago. Perhaps in some ways now, there are some people that are more open to think of eternity than 10 years ago. But for sure, in another year, 2 years, we don't know how long, it will be more difficult than it is now. It will continue to become more and more difficult because, as we said, the adversary, he does not waste his time. He knows the time is short. He knows better than we how short, and he is not wasting his time. What does inspiration tell us about the struggle before us? And this is again something that we as human beings tend to forget.
It says in Ephesians 6:12, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, and also iniquity is abounding, and love of many shall wax cold. But he that endures to the end shall be saved.
Good, thank you. So we are not fighting, our struggle is not against the politicians or against the politicians themselves, against what we see. What we are fighting against is the principalities and the powers who have taken control of the forces that we see. Right? We are warring against dangers that we cannot see, and therefore we need the special work of grace. And what's very interesting, as the battle intensifies, and we're seeing it intensifying, it says we are to carry forward the work with intensified zeal and energy. And are we rising to that necessity of intensifying our zeal and energy? Brother Dalebo, you want to say something?
Yeah, just how people change with the money, right? Before, people, they need each other. You know, they were poor, but they need each other. You need your neighbor, you need your friend to help you, because but now everything changed. Everybody had enough money and they could do it, everything. They buy machines, they buy this, they that, and people starting to be cold to each other because they don't need each other anymore, and we're missing that connections, and it's growing, and the same thing now with spiritual life with COVID. Now people, they're going in all kind of theories. And it's such a confusion that people and Satan use all that.
Anything to distract.
And even people who witnessing for the Lord, they have to really pray that witnessing for the Lord, that God leads them, that they don't go up there and teaching all kind of theories and everything, like, because all true knowledge comes from the God, and that's what we need to study, and that's what we need to present.
Good, thank you. Wednesday, we don't have too much time left. Instead of engaging in speculative get-rich-quick schemes, what should we do with the talents entrusted to us?
We should occupy our time.
Yes,
Occupy
God
till he
gave us
comes.
talents to occupy our time.
Yes.
And how? What are we supposed to use those talents for? It's very interesting. The guy with the one talent, I think this is a different parable, but in the parable of the of the three servants, the one servant who had the one talent, he buried it in the earth. And I think that is a metaphor for being preoccupied with worldly things, for investing the money in purely worldly speculations, worldly efforts, whatever. What does God give us our talents for? Yes, Brother Damian.
Whatever talents we have to use in the advance of God's work. Now, we're talking over here in the lesson about the wealth, we're talking about the money and stuff like this. We have to know that if we have some wealth, if we have some money, it's not our. That God give us this to use for advance of His work. It say over here, wealth, when rightly employed, wealth becomes a golden bond of gratitude and affection between man and his fellow man, and a strong tie to bind his affection to his Redeemer. So some people have money, but if they're using, it's not sin to have money or to be rich, but if we use this in God's work, if we use to help fellow men, then it's going to be even more blessing for us. And we have to know that it's not our, and God give us this just for use, in trust for us.
Good, thank you. I'd like to read the two sentences right in the middle of that note. It said, for his strength, his skill, time, talents, opportunities, means. So it's not just money there. Strength, skill, time, talents, opportunities, and means. All of those. We must render an account to God. And He's given us those, all 5 of them, to that we may become like Him. Generous, noble, beneficent by giving to others. Giving to others strength, skill, time, talents, opportunity, means. So all those things God gives us, we will have to render account to Him, and He expects us to use those to become like Him. Generous, beneficent by giving to others. Not expecting always for ourselves, by giving to others. Okay, what can we learn from the experience of Solomon?
This is a well-known text from Ecclesiastes 2, when he was summarizing his life. Whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them, I withheld not from my heart from any joy. For my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and beheld all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. I would add, if we do things for God's glory and salvation of our souls, this will never be vanity. This will stay. Other things, if we are focused on self, they're vanity. And we ultimately, when people are about to die, they realize, what is true value.
Yeah, most people spend their lives doing, there's even the expression, we have a bucket list, list of things we want to do and accomplish before we die. or they spend their lives thinking what would they like to do or what would they like to accomplish in their life. But if we do not take God into our consideration, if we do what Solomon did and only do those things that Solomon could do, what none of us can do. He could always gratify his eyes. He could always gratify his desires. Whatever he thought of wanting to do, pretty much Solomon could do it. And he's telling us, when I did all those things, I found it vanity. So you guys who don't have the opportunity to do what I can do, don't fall into my error. Don't spend your lives trying to gratify your taste, your eyes, whatever you want. Spend your time in putting energy towards God's cause. Especially, I'd like to read the last sentence there, or the last two sentences. Let none waste time in deploring the scantiness. This is something I do a lot. Let none waste time in deploring the scantiness of their visible resources. The outward appearance may be unpromising, but energy and trust in God will develop resources. And we can spend a lot of time thinking about how few people there are to do the work, how little money there is in the treasury, how there's no way we can develop the institutions we were taught to do, whatever, instead of making a start. Just making a start, planning carefully, making a start, God will bless the resources and supply the resources. Okay, a purchased possession. Why is the attitude of the rich fool, this is a badly constructed sentence, so I'm going to fix the grammar here. Why is the attitude of the rich and foolish man with the bonds a warning for us? Yes, brother.
Yeah, we have here a parable about, first part was good. So he planned everything, he put effort, the things grows, God blessed. He didn't have place to put it. You don't live to waste it, so he built bigger barns. That all part is still good, but now it's coming trouble, right? When he has all that thing, what he does it with it? That's the problem. Problem is he said, oh, now I will relax and I enjoy it.
Retire, yeah.
Retired, but he didn't know that, his life is on the end, and he didn't invest it in their treasure where it's forever. So that's why it's not good for us to be rich, because it's very very tempting, and it's so easy to go away. Like we have just few examples in the Bible, like Abraham. He was rich, but whoever came visit him, they know about the Lord, and then they keep the commandments and was teaching other about it. It's very few people like that. So that's why it's nothing wrong to have something, but it's wrong what we do with that, and how we help another with wealth what we have.
Good. And it says here, we spend a lot of money making life easier for ourselves, and making so that we don't have to do as much work. If you think about it, we spend a lot of time making life easier for ourselves. But we indulge selfish ease while souls for whom Christ died are perishing. That means we do not truly love God or his people, those whom he created, and he cannot bless us, and we are just like that rich foolish man. We're spending our time, we're spending what God has given us to minister to ourselves instead of to minister to others. When considering the price paid for our redemption, what should always remain foremost in our mind? Ye are Christ, and Christ is God's, for you are bought with a price, the biggest price ever paid for anything was paid for each of us. The biggest price. No matter how many Elon Musk or Bill Gates, or no matter how much they have, they cannot pay that price. Ye are Christ, and Christ is God's. Therefore, if you are bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body and your spirit, which are God's. We must never forget, whatever we do with our time, with our money, with our strength, They are not ours, they're God's. And they're that, I told my children that this week, it doesn't matter whether you acknowledge it or not. They're God's. And you will give an account for us. He has a right to ask. We are His. He has a right for us to do whatever He asks us, because we've been bought for the highest price that was ever paid. And that is how we should live our lives. We cannot afford, the last sentence says, to spend our lives serving ourselves. We are God's and we have a duty to serve Him. Thank you.